Question 1. The performance metrics show a slight decrease in the number of applications received for the upcoming academic year compared to previous years, and a marginal decline in the average grade point average of admitted students. The marketing department is proposing a press release that focuses solely on the high quality of the student portfolio submissions and the innovative artistic directions of the incoming cohort, while omitting any mention of the application numbers or GPA trends. Option A. Issue a press release that artificially inflates the application numbers and GPA of admitted students to present a more favorable picture. Option B. Issue a press release that focuses on the institution's historical achievements and reputation without mentioning any current year performance metrics. Option C. Issue a press release that accurately reflects the performance metrics, including both positive and less favorable trends, and outlines the institution's commitment to addressing any identified challenges. Option D. Issue a press release that highlights the positive aspects of the incoming cohort, such as portfolio quality and artistic innovation, while omitting any mention of application numbers or GPA trends. The correct answer is C. Issue a press release that accurately reflects the performance metrics, including both positive and less favorable trends, and outlines the institution's commitment to addressing any identified challenges. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the institution's perceived need for positive public relations with the ethical obligation to accurately represent the student body's achievements and the integrity of the admissions process. The Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, operates under a mandate to foster artistic talent and provide quality education, which implies a commitment to fair and transparent admissions. Misrepresenting data, even with good intentions, can undermine public trust, devalue the achievements of admitted students, and potentially lead to scrutiny from governing bodies or accreditation agencies. Careful judgment is required to uphold ethical standards while navigating institutional pressures. The correct approach involves transparently reporting the admissions data as it is, without manipulation or selective presentation. This aligns with principles of academic integrity and ethical data reporting, which are implicitly expected of educational institutions. While the prompt does not specify a CAD exact regulatory framework, educational institutions generally adhere to standards of honesty and accuracy in their public communications. Presenting the data truthfully, even if it indicates a decline in certain metrics, is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible action. It allows for genuine assessment of challenges and informed decision-making regarding future strategies. An approach that involves selectively highlighting only the positive performance metrics, while omitting or downplaying less favorable ones, is ethically flawed. This constitutes a form of data manipulation or misleading representation, which erodes trust and can lead to misguided institutional planning. Fails to provide a complete and accurate picture of the situation. Another incorrect approach would be to artificially inflate or alter the performance metrics to present a more favorable outcome. This is a direct violation of ethical principles related to honesty and data integrity. Such actions could have severe consequences, including reputational damage, loss of accreditation, and potential legal ramifications if discovered. A third incorrect approach might be to ignore the performance metrics altogether and continue with business as usual, without addressing any potential issues. This demonstrates a lack of accountability and a failure to engage with the data to improve institutional performance or address any underlying problems that may be contributing to the observed metrics. It neglects the professional responsibility to critically evaluate institutional progress. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes honesty, transparency, and accountability. This involves 1. Acknowledging the data as presented. 2. Analyzing the underlying reasons for the observed performance metrics, seeking to understand the causes rather than just the symptoms. 3. Developing strategies based on a clear and accurate understanding of the situation, rather than on a fabricated or selectively presented one. 4. Communicating findings and proposed actions transparently to relevant stakeholders. This process ensures that decisions are grounded in reality and that the institution operates with integrity. Question 2. During the evaluation of applications for the Alberta College of Art and Design's Bachelor of Fine Arts program, a member of the admissions committee discovers that one of the applicants is a distant relative. This applicant's portfolio is strong but not exceptional compared to others. How should the committee member proceed to ensure the integrity of the admissions process? Option A. The committee member should suggest to the committee that they prioritize applicants with personal connections to faculty or staff, as this can indicate a stronger commitment to the arts and a potential for future success within the ACAD community. Option B. The committee member should advocate for the applicant, highlighting their potential and the familial connection as a sign of early artistic promise, believing that personal knowledge can supplement the formal evaluation. Option C. The committee member should proceed with evaluating the application as usual, assuming their personal relationship will not influence their objective assessment, and keep the connection confidential to avoid perceived bias. Option D. The committee member should immediately disclose their familial connection to the committee chair and recuse themselves from any discussion or voting related to that applicant's file, ensuring all evaluations are based solely on the submitted application materials and the established rubric. Correct answer is D. The committee member should immediately disclose their familial connection to the committee chair and recuse themselves from any discussion or voting related to that applicant's file, ensuring all evaluations are based solely on the submitted application materials and the established rubric. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the admissions committee at the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, must balance the desire to admit promising students with the need to maintain academic integrity and ensure fair evaluation processes. The committee members are acting as fiduciaries, entrusted with upholding the college's standards and reputation. Their decisions have a direct impact on individual applicants' futures and the overall quality of the student body. Careful judgment is required to avoid bias and ensure that all applicants are assessed against the same criteria. The correct approach involves the admissions committee members adhering strictly to the established ACAD admissions criteria and the principles of fairness and impartiality. This means evaluating each applicant's portfolio, academic record, and statement of intent based on the predefined rubric, without allowing personal relationships or external pressures to influence their judgment. This aligns with the ethical obligations of academic institutions to provide a transparent and equitable admissions process, ensuring that all candidates are given a fair opportunity. An incorrect approach would be to allow a committee member to advocate for a relative's application based on personal knowledge outside of the submitted materials. This introduces bias and undermines the integrity of the evaluation process. It violates the principle of equal treatment and could lead to the admission of a less qualified candidate over a more deserving one, damaging the college's reputation for merit-based admissions. Another incorrect approach would be for the committee to disregard the established admissions rubric in favor of a more subjective, gut-feeling assessment for certain applicants. While intuition can play a role in evaluating creative work, a formal rubric provides a standardized framework that ensures consistency and reduces the likelihood of arbitrary decisions. Deviating from the rubric without a clear, documented rationale for all applicants would be a failure of due process. Finally, an incorrect approach would be for the committee to be swayed by external pressure, such as a prominent artist or donor expressing a strong interest in a particular applicant. While external input might be considered in a limited, transparent manner, allowing it to dictate admissions decisions compromises the independence and objectivity of the committee. This can lead to perceptions of favoritism and undermine the college's commitment to admitting students based on their own merits. The professional decision-making process for such situations involves 1. Understanding and strictly adhering to all ACAD admissions policies and guidelines. 2. Maintaining objectivity and impartiality throughout the evaluation process. 3. Documenting all decisions and the rationale behind them, especially when deviating from standard procedures, which should be rare and well justified. 4. Recusing oneself from discussions or decisions where a conflict of interest exists. 5. Prioritizing the integrity and fairness of the admissions process above all else. Question 3. Benchmark analysis indicates that an applicant to the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, has submitted a portfolio that, while showing flashes of creative potential, does not fully meet the technical proficiency or conceptual depth outlined in the official entrance requirements. The applicant's guardian, a well-connected individual within the local arts community, has expressed strong advocacy for the applicant and has requested an informal review and potential special consideration outside of the standard process. Which of the following represents the most professionally responsible and ethically sound approach for the ACAD Admissions Committee? Option A. Offer the applicant conditional acceptance based on the guardian's influence and the perceived potential, with the understanding that they will need to catch up on technical skills once admitted. Bypassing the standard portfolio assessment for this specific case. Option B. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's portfolio against all stated entrance requirements, and if deficiencies are identified, provide clear, constructive feedback to the applicant and their guardian, outlining specific areas for improvement and suggesting ACAD pre-admission workshops or portfolio development resources as potential avenues for future application. Option C. Lightly decline the request for an informal review outside the established process and inform the guardian that the applicant's portfolio did not meet the minimum requirements for admission, without providing further details or suggestions for improvement. Option D. Immediately grant the applicant admission to ACAD, recognizing the guardian's standing in the arts community, and address any portfolio deficiencies through remedial coursework during their first year. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's portfolio against all stated entrance requirements, and if deficiencies are identified, provide clear, constructive feedback to the applicant and their guardian, outlining specific areas for improvement and suggesting ACAD pre-admission workshops or portfolio development resources as potential avenues for future application. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate needs of an applicant with the established admissions policies and the integrity of the Alberta College of Art and Design's ACAD entrance process. The pressure to accommodate a potentially talented individual must be weighed against the need for fair and consistent evaluation for all applicants. Careful judgment is required to uphold ACAD standards while exploring legitimate avenues for support. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's portfolio against the stated entrance requirements, and then, if there are areas of concern, exploring ACAD established policies for supporting applicants who may have demonstrated potential but require additional guidance to meet the formal criteria. This might include offering pre-admission workshops, portfolio development sessions, or clearly outlining specific areas for improvement that could be addressed in a subsequent application cycle. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible as it respects the established admissions framework, ensures fairness to all applicants, and provides constructive pathways for the applicant to potentially succeed in the future, aligning with ACAD mission to foster artistic development. An incorrect approach would be to bypass the standard portfolio review process and offer conditional acceptance based solely on a brief informal review or a personal recommendation. This undermines the integrity of the admissions process, creates an unfair advantage for this applicant over others who have diligently followed the established procedures, and could lead to admitting students who are not adequately prepared for the rigor of ACAD programs. It also fails to adhere to the principles of transparency and equity that are fundamental to any educational institution's admissions policies. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the applicant outright without exploring any potential support mechanisms or providing clear feedback. While maintaining standards is crucial, a complete rejection without offering any guidance on how to improve for future applications can be seen as a failure to support emerging artistic talent, which is contrary to the broader educational mission of fostering creativity. This approach lacks the professional courtesy and developmental focus that a reputable art and design institution should strive for. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding and strictly adhering to all established ACAD admissions policies and guidelines. 2. Conducting a comprehensive and objective evaluation of the applicant's submission against these criteria. 3. If deficiencies are noted, identifying and communicating specific areas for improvement. 4. Exploring and offering any available policy-compliant support mechanisms or alternative pathways for the applicant. 5. Documenting all interactions and decisions thoroughly. Question 4. Performance analysis shows a significant number of applicants to the Alberta College of Art and Design are not completing their portfolios to the expected standard, impacting the overall quality of the applicant pool. The admissions committee is considering engaging an external consultant to analyze applicant portfolio data to identify common weaknesses and suggest improvements to the application guidelines. However, the committee is unsure about the extent to which they can share applicant portfolio information with the consultant, given privacy considerations, and ACAD internal data handling policies. Which of the following actions best navigates this situation according to ACAD regulatory framework and ethical guidelines? Option A. Share all applicant portfolio data, including identifying information, with the external consultant to ensure the most comprehensive analysis possible for identifying weaknesses. Option B. Consult the CAD admissions policy and Alberta's Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, FOIP Act, to determine the permissible scope of data sharing and anonymization requirements before engaging the consultant, and seek legal counsel if necessary. Option C. Proceed with the analysis using only publicly available portfolio examples from the Internet to avoid any privacy concerns, even if this limits the relevance of the findings. Option D. Decline the external consultant's involvement due to the inherent privacy risks associated with analyzing applicant data, and instead rely solely on internal committee discussions for improvement. The correct answer is B. Consult ACAD admissions policy and Alberta's Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, FOIP Act, to determine the permissible scope of data sharing and anonymization requirements before engaging the consultant, and seek legal counsel if necessary. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in balancing the need for accurate and timely information with the ethical obligation to protect student privacy and the integrity of the admissions process. The Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, operates under specific provincial legislation and internal policies that govern admissions and data handling. The challenge lies in interpreting these regulations when faced with a request that, while seemingly aimed at improving performance, could inadvertently breach confidentiality or lead to biased decision-making. The correct approach involves a thorough review of ACAD admissions policies and relevant provincial privacy legislation, such as Alberta's Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, FOIP Act, to understand the permissible uses and disclosures of applicant data. This approach prioritizes adherence to legal and ethical standards by seeking clarification and ensuring any data analysis is conducted within established boundaries. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible data stewardship and respects the privacy rights of applicants. An incorrect approach that involves directly sharing raw applicant data with external consultants without proper anonymization or explicit consent would violate privacy principles and potentially contravene the FOIP Act. This could lead to unauthorized disclosure of personal information, damaging ACAD reputation and exposing it to legal repercussions. Another incorrect approach, that of proceeding with the analysis without consulting relevant policies, risks misinterpreting the scope of permissible data use and could result in actions that are not in line with ACAD ethical commitments or legal obligations. A third incorrect approach, that of dismissing the request entirely without exploring compliant alternatives, misses an opportunity to improve processes and could be perceived as uncooperative or resistant to constructive feedback, though it avoids direct breaches. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core request and its potential implications. This is followed by a comprehensive review of applicable regulations and institutional policies. Next, they should consult with relevant internal stakeholders, such as the legal department or privacy officer, to gain clarity. Finally, they should develop a plan that either fulfills the request in a compliant manner, proposes alternative compliant methods, or, if no compliant method exists, clearly articulates the reasons for refusal based on regulatory or ethical grounds. Question 5. Benchmark analysis indicates that an applicant to the Alberta College of Art and Design presents a portfolio showcasing exceptional technical drawing skills and a strong command of traditional media. However, the conceptual underpinnings of the work appear to be less developed and do not clearly demonstrate an engagement with contemporary art discourse or the specific interdisciplinary approaches emphasized in the college's program descriptions. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the Alberta College of Art and Design's likely entrance exam evaluation framework? Option A. Evaluate the portfolio holistically, considering the technical execution alongside the conceptual development, originality, and demonstrated potential for growth within the college's specific program objectives and pedagogical philosophy. Option B. Admit the applicant based on the subjective aesthetic appeal of the artwork, as determined by the individual preferences of the admissions committee members. Option C. Prioritize the applicant's technical mastery and potential for commercial application, admitting them based on the evident skill level. Option D. Focus primarily on the applicant's perceived ability to quickly adapt to industry demands, as this reflects a successful outcome for the institution. Correct answer is C. Prioritize the applicant's technical mastery and potential for commercial application, admitting them based on the evident skill level. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the applicant's portfolio, while demonstrating technical skill, may not fully align with the Alberta College of Art and Design's stated program objectives and pedagogical approach. The admissions committee must balance recognizing artistic talent with ensuring admitted students are a good fit for the program and will benefit from its specific curriculum and faculty expertise. This requires careful judgment to avoid admitting students who may struggle to adapt or whose artistic development might be better served elsewhere, while also not unfairly excluding promising individuals. The correct approach involves a holistic review that prioritizes alignment with the program's stated values and learning outcomes, as articulated in the Alberta College of Art and Design's official admissions guidelines and program descriptions. This means evaluating the portfolio not just for technical proficiency, but also for conceptual depth, originality, and evidence of critical thinking that resonates with the college's educational philosophy. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the college's mandate to foster specific artistic and design competencies. It ensures that admissions decisions are transparent, fair, and based on criteria directly relevant to the educational experience the college offers. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on technical execution, overlooking the conceptual and contextual elements of the artwork. This fails to consider the college's specific program goals and could lead to admitting students who may not thrive in its particular environment. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize perceived marketability or commercial appeal over artistic merit and program fit. This deviates from the educational mission of an art and design college, which is to cultivate artistic exploration and critical engagement, not solely to train for immediate industry placement. Finally, an approach that relies on subjective personal preferences of the admissions committee members, without reference to established program criteria, is ethically problematic as it introduces bias and lacks transparency. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the institution's mission, program objectives, and admission criteria. This framework involves objective evaluation against these established standards, seeking evidence of the applicant's potential to succeed within the specific academic context. When faced with ambiguity, seeking consensus among committee members based on these shared criteria, and potentially requesting supplementary information from the applicant, are crucial steps in ensuring fair and defensible decisions. Question 6. Benchmark analysis indicates that applicants to the Alberta College of Art and Design often seek to present their artistic journey in the most compelling light. Considering the ethical obligations of an applicant, which of the following approaches best reflects professional integrity in the context of the ACAD entrance application process? Option A. Claim advanced proficiency in a digital art software after attending only a single introductory workshop, based on the assumption that the workshop provided sufficient foundational knowledge. Option B. Omit any mention of a past art competition entry that did not result in an award to avoid presenting a less successful outcome. Option C. Exaggerate the leadership role and project management responsibilities undertaken in a community art project to imply a higher level of experience than was actually gained. Option D. Accurately describe the scope and impact of a community art project, highlighting personal contributions and learning outcomes, even if leadership responsibilities were limited. The correct answer is D. Accurately describe the scope and impact of a community art project, highlighting personal contributions and learning outcomes, even if leadership responsibilities were limited. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical responsibility of an applicant to accurately represent their qualifications and experiences during the admissions process for the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD. The challenge lies in balancing the desire to present oneself favorably with the imperative of honesty and integrity, which are foundational to academic and professional conduct. Misrepresenting information, even if seemingly minor, can undermine the credibility of the applicant and the integrity of the admissions process. Careful judgment is required to discern between legitimate self-promotion and deceptive exaggeration. The correct approach involves the applicant providing a truthful and accurate account of their artistic development and experiences, highlighting their strengths and achievements without fabrication. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty and integrity expected of all individuals engaging with academic institutions. Specifically, it adheres to the implicit understanding that all submitted materials for a CAD entrance are to be a genuine reflection of the applicant's capabilities and journey. This approach fosters trust between the applicant and the institution and ensures that admissions decisions are based on a fair and accurate assessment of merit. An incorrect approach that involves embellishing the scope and impact of a community art project to suggest leadership experience that was not actually held is ethically flawed. This constitutes a misrepresentation of facts, violating the principle of honesty. It creates a false impression of the applicant's capabilities, potentially leading to an unfair advantage over other applicants and compromising the integrity of the admissions committee's evaluation. Another incorrect approach, which is to omit any mention of a less successful art competition entry to avoid appearing less accomplished, also represents an ethical failure. While not an outright fabrication, it is a form of selective disclosure that distorts the applicant's overall artistic journey. The admissions committee benefits from a comprehensive understanding of an applicant's experiences, including challenges and learning opportunities, to make a well-rounded assessment. Concealing relevant information, even if negative, can be seen as an attempt to mislead. A third incorrect approach, which is to claim proficiency in a digital art software based on a single introductory workshop, is also professionally unacceptable. This misrepresents the applicant's skill level, potentially leading to placement in courses or programs for which they are not adequately prepared. It undermines the institution's ability to accurately gauge an applicant's readiness and can lead to academic difficulties for the student and inefficiencies for the program. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to transparency and accuracy. Applicants should ask themselves, is this statement factually correct and verifiable? If the answer is no, or if there is significant doubt, the information should be presented in a way that is truthful and avoids exaggeration. Professionals should focus on presenting their genuine skills and experiences, allowing their authentic abilities to speak for themselves. When in doubt, it is always better to err on the side of caution and provide a more conservative, yet truthful representation. Question 7. Benchmark analysis indicates that applicants to the Alberta College of Art and Design often draw inspiration from existing visual culture. Considering the ethical and academic expectations of the institution, which approach best demonstrates responsible creative practice when developing portfolio pieces for the entrance exam? Option A. Subtly incorporating elements from a well-known artist's work into a new piece, making minor stylistic changes to avoid direct replication, and presenting the final work as an original concept. Option B. Creating a portfolio piece that is entirely original in concept and execution, with no discernible influence from any external artistic sources. Option C. Developing a portfolio piece that is heavily influenced by a specific artist's style and subject matter, but clearly stating in the accompanying artist's statement that the work is an homage and detailing the specific influences. Option D. Using a photograph found online as a direct reference for a significant portion of a drawing, without seeking permission from the photographer or acknowledging the source in any way. The correct answer is A. Subtly incorporating elements from a well-known artist's work into a new piece, making minor stylistic changes to avoid direct replication, and presenting the final work as an original concept. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an applicant to the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, by requiring them to consider the ethical implications of their creative process within the context of academic integrity and intellectual property, as governed by general principles of academic conduct and copyright law applicable in Alberta. The challenge lies in balancing creative expression with the responsibility to acknowledge sources and avoid misrepresentation, which are fundamental to a reputable educational institution. Careful judgment is required to navigate the nuances of inspiration versus appropriation. The correct approach involves a proactive and transparent engagement with the source material, demonstrating an understanding of ethical creative practices. This approach is right because it aligns with the core principles of academic integrity expected at ACAD, which implicitly requires students to respect intellectual property and to be honest about their creative influences. By seeking permission and clearly attributing inspiration, the applicant demonstrates a commitment to ethical scholarship and artistic practice, avoiding potential copyright infringement and upholding the values of originality and honest representation. This aligns with the spirit of academic honesty and the legal framework of copyright in Canada, which protects original works. An incorrect approach that involves using the source material without any acknowledgement or permission is ethically and legally flawed. This failure constitutes a breach of academic integrity by presenting borrowed ideas or imagery as entirely original, which is a form of plagiarism. It also risks copyright infringement, as the original creator has rights to their work. Another incorrect approach that involves making minor alterations to the source material without attribution is also problematic. Some transformation has occurred. The fundamental reliance on the original work without acknowledgement still falls short of ethical standards. It attempts to circumvent the issue of direct copying, but does not address the underlying ethical obligation to credit the source of inspiration, potentially still infringing on the original creator's rights and violating academic honesty principles. A further incorrect approach that involves claiming the work is entirely original after being inspired by the source material, without any disclosure, is a direct misrepresentation. This is a significant ethical failure, as it deliberately deceives the admissions committee about the applicant's creative process and influences. It undermines the purpose of the entrance portfolio, which is to assess genuine artistic skill and creative thinking, not the ability to obscure the origins of one's work. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of academic integrity policies and copyright law. Applicants should always err on the side of transparency. When in doubt about the originality of a concept or the need for attribution, it is best to seek guidance from the institution or to provide clear and honest disclosure of all influences and sources. The focus should be on demonstrating a thoughtful and ethical approach to creative work, rather than on attempting to conceal or misrepresent the creative process. Question 8. Benchmark analysis indicates that prospective students submitting portfolios for the Alberta College of Art and Design entrance exam often grapple with how to best represent their creative process and influences. Considering the institution's emphasis on originality and academic integrity, which of the following approaches to portfolio submission best demonstrates ethical practice and a mature understanding of artistic development? Option A. Presenting all submitted artwork as entirely original creations, without mentioning any external influences or collaborative efforts, to maximize the perception of individual talent. Option B. Including a disclaimer that all submitted work is subject to interpretation and may contain elements inspired by various sources, without providing specific details of those sources. Option C. Omitting any specific mention of collaborative projects or significant external inspirations, focusing only on the final visual outcome to showcase artistic merit. Option D. Clearly detailing the creative process, including any significant inspirations, research, or collaborative elements, while ensuring the final submitted work is a genuine reflection of the applicant's individual contribution and skill. The correct answer is D. Clearly detailing the creative process, including any significant inspirations, research, or collaborative elements, while ensuring the final submitted work is a genuine reflection of the applicant's individual contribution and skill. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge for an aspiring art and design student by requiring them to consider the ethical implications of their creative work within the context of academic integrity and institutional guidelines. The core professional challenge lies in balancing creative expression with the responsibility to acknowledge sources and avoid misrepresentation, which are fundamental principles in any academic or professional creative field. Careful judgment is required to ensure that their portfolio submission is both original and ethically sound, reflecting a mature understanding of artistic practice. The correct approach involves a transparent and honest representation of their creative process, including clearly acknowledging any influences or collaborative elements. This aligns with the Alberta College of Art and Design's (ACAD) commitment to academic integrity and ethical conduct, as implicitly understood through general principles of university admissions and the expectation of original work. By detailing their process and acknowledging influences, the student demonstrates respect for intellectual property and a commitment to authentic self-expression, which are valued qualities in artistic education. This approach fosters trust and credibility with the admissions committee. An incorrect approach that involves presenting borrowed elements as entirely original work constitutes academic dishonesty. This violates the implicit ethical contract of an entrance exam, which assumes the applicant's work is their own creation. Such misrepresentation undermines the purpose of the assessment, which is to evaluate the applicant's individual skills and potential. It also demonstrates a lack of integrity, a critical flaw for any aspiring professional in a creative field. Another incorrect approach, that of omitting any mention of collaborative work or significant external inspiration, is also ethically problematic. While not outright fabrication, it creates a misleading impression of the applicant's independent capabilities. This failure to disclose relevant information can lead to an inaccurate assessment of their skills and potential fit for the program. It suggests a lack of transparency and a potential unwillingness to engage with the full spectrum of their creative influences. Finally, an approach that focuses solely on the final aesthetic outcome without any consideration for the process or ethical sourcing of inspiration, while perhaps understandable from a purely artistic perspective, fails to meet the expectations of an academic institution. ACAD, like other educational bodies, seeks to understand not just the final product, but also the student's critical thinking, problem-solving abilities, and ethical awareness throughout their creative journey. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a commitment to honesty and transparency. Aspiring students should always strive to present their work in a manner that accurately reflects their contributions and acknowledges all significant influences. When in doubt about how to properly attribute or disclose, seeking guidance from mentors or reviewing institutional guidelines on academic integrity is a prudent step. The goal is to build a foundation of ethical practice from the outset of one's academic and professional career. Question 9. System analysis indicates that an admissions committee member at the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, is reviewing an applicant's portfolio. The committee member recognizes the applicant's parent as a significant donor to the institution. The parent has previously expressed a strong desire for their child's admission and has subtly alluded to the importance of their continued support for ACAD. The committee member is concerned about potential bias influencing their evaluation. Which of the following approaches best upholds the integrity of the ACAD admissions process? Option A. Discuss the applicant's portfolio with a friend who is an art instructor at another institution to get an informal opinion on their potential. Option B. Reject the applicant immediately to prevent any appearance of impropriety without a full review of their qualifications. Option C. Prioritize the applicant's admission to avoid alienating a significant donor and to ensure continued institutional support. Option D. Conduct a thorough and objective review of the applicant's portfolio and supporting documents, strictly adhering to the established ACAD admissions criteria and policies, and disclose the potential conflict of interest to the admissions committee chair. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough and objective review of the applicant's portfolio and supporting documents, strictly adhering to the established ACAD admissions criteria and policies, and disclose the potential conflict of interest to the admissions committee chair. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an admissions committee member at the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, due to the inherent tension between upholding academic integrity and responding to external pressures. The need for careful judgment arises from the responsibility to ensure a fair and equitable admissions process, which is governed by ACAD internal policies and potentially broader educational guidelines in Alberta. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective review of the applicant's portfolio and supporting documents, adhering strictly to the established ACAD admissions criteria. This aligns with the ethical obligation to treat all applicants equally and to maintain the credibility of the admissions process. ACAD internal policies, which would outline the specific requirements for portfolio assessment and the weight given to various components, serve as the primary regulatory framework. Ethically, this approach upholds principles of fairness, transparency, and meritocracy, ensuring that admission is based on demonstrated artistic potential and suitability for the program, not on external influence. An incorrect approach would be to allow the personal relationship with the applicant's family to influence the evaluation. This introduces bias and compromises the integrity of the admissions process. Such an action would violate ACAD's internal policies on conflict of interest and fair evaluation, and it would be ethically unsound, as it undermines the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the applicant outright due to the perceived pressure, without a proper review. This would be an arbitrary decision, failing to adhere to ACAD's established assessment procedures and potentially overlooking a deserving candidate. It also fails to address the underlying issue of external influence in a professional manner. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to seek guidance from a colleague outside of the established ACAD admissions review process. While collaboration can be valuable, doing so without following official channels could lead to informal or biased recommendations, circumventing the structured and objective evaluation system designed to ensure fairness and consistency. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Identifying the core ethical and regulatory obligations, ACAD admissions policies, fairness, objectivity. 2. Recognizing potential conflicts of interest or undue influence. 3. Adhering strictly to established procedures and criteria. 4. Documenting all decisions and the rationale behind them. 5. Seeking clarification or guidance through official channels if ambiguity exists. Question 10. Investigation of an applicant's portfolio for the Alberta College of Art and Design entrance exam reveals a striking resemblance between a submitted digital painting and a well-known photograph found online. The applicant has not mentioned the photograph in their submission. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible approach for the admissions committee to take when evaluating this portfolio? Option A. Contact the applicant to inquire about the inspiration and process behind the digital painting, specifically asking about any reference materials used. Option B. Focus solely on the technical execution of the digital painting, disregarding any potential issues of originality. Option C. Assume the applicant has plagiarized and immediately disqualify the portfolio. Option D. Ignore the resemblance, as the applicant may have independently created a similar image. The correct answer is C. Assume the applicant has plagiarized and immediately disqualify the portfolio. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only artistic talent, but also an understanding of the ethical considerations involved in academic integrity and the responsible use of creative resources. The Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD entrance exam, as a gatekeeper to higher education in the arts, has a vested interest in admitting students who understand and respect the principles of originality and proper attribution. The challenge lies in balancing the demonstration of creative skill with an awareness of academic honesty, a core value in any educational institution. The correct approach involves a clear and honest disclosure of any external influences or assistance received during the creation of the portfolio. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of academic integrity, which are implicitly or explicitly part of any university's admissions guidelines. Specifically, by acknowledging the use of a reference image and explaining its role as inspiration rather than direct replication, the applicant demonstrates an understanding of originality and the importance of giving credit where it is due. This approach fosters trust between the applicant and the institution and signals a commitment to ethical academic conduct, a crucial factor for success in a creative field that values original thought and expression. An incorrect approach would be to present the work as entirely original without any mention of the reference image. This constitutes a misrepresentation of the applicant's creative process and a failure to adhere to principles of academic honesty. Such a failure could lead to the rejection of the application or, if discovered later, disciplinary action. Another incorrect approach would be to overstate the extent of external assistance, implying a lack of personal creative input. While honesty is paramount, an exaggerated admission of help could undermine the applicant's perceived ability to undertake independent creative work, which is a primary requirement for art and design programs. Finally, attempting to conceal the use of the reference image entirely, perhaps by making minor alterations, is a form of academic dishonesty and demonstrates a lack of integrity. The professional decision-making process in such a situation involves a commitment to transparency and honesty. Applicants should reflect on their creative process, identify any significant external influences, and be prepared to articulate how these influences were integrated into their original work. The focus should be on demonstrating their own creative vision and skill, while acknowledging any legitimate sources of inspiration or assistance in a way that upholds academic integrity. Question 11. Process analysis reveals that an applicant's submitted portfolio for the Alberta College of Art and Design entrance exam contains several pieces that bear a striking resemblance to well-known contemporary artworks, raising questions about originality and potential external influence. Which of the following actions best upholds the principles of fairness and academic integrity in this situation? Option A. Contacting the artist whose work appears to be replicated to inquire about potential plagiarism before making an admissions decision. Option B. Immediately rejecting the applicant's submission due to the strong visual similarities, assuming academic misconduct without further investigation. Option C. Admitting the applicant without further inquiry, prioritizing the technical skill demonstrated in the portfolio over the concerns about originality. Option D. Requesting a detailed written explanation from the applicant outlining their creative process for the disputed pieces, including any sources of inspiration, references, or collaborative efforts, and evaluating this explanation alongside the portfolio. Correct answer is D. Requesting a detailed written explanation from the applicant outlining their creative process for the disputed pieces, including any sources of inspiration, references, or collaborative efforts, and evaluating this explanation alongside the portfolio. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the applicant's portfolio, while demonstrating technical skill, raises concerns about originality and potential academic misconduct. The admissions committee must balance the desire to admit talented students with the ethical obligation to uphold academic integrity and ensure that admitted students are genuinely capable of original work. Careful judgment is required to avoid both rejecting a deserving candidate based on unsubstantiated suspicion and admitting a student who may have plagiarized or misrepresented their work. The correct approach involves a thorough, evidence-based investigation into the applicant's portfolio. This entails seeking clarification directly from the applicant regarding their creative process and the specific contributions of any collaborators or sources. This approach is ethically justified by the principles of fairness and due process, ensuring the applicant has an opportunity to explain their work. It aligns with the implicit understanding in academic admissions that submitted work should be the applicant's own, and that any reliance on external sources or assistance must be properly acknowledged. The Alberta College of Art and Design, like any academic institution, has a vested interest in fostering a culture of originality and ethical scholarship. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the applicant based solely on the perceived similarities in their work. This fails to provide the applicant with natural justice and presumes guilt without investigation. It is ethically problematic as it bypasses the opportunity for dialogue and clarification, potentially penalizing a student for circumstances they could explain. Another incorrect approach would be to admit the applicant without any further inquiry, despite the red flags. This would be a failure of due diligence and could undermine the integrity of the admissions process and the institution's commitment to academic honesty. It risks admitting a student who may not meet the fundamental requirements of original creative contribution. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured inquiry. First, identify the specific concerns raised by the submitted materials. Second, formulate clear, non-accusatory questions to address these concerns directly with the applicant. Third, evaluate the applicant's response in conjunction with the original submission and any available contextual information. Fourth, make a decision based on a holistic assessment of the evidence, prioritizing fairness, transparency, and the institution's commitment to academic integrity. Question 12. Governance review demonstrates that the proposed expansion of the student art installation program, while artistically exciting, requires significant reallocation of existing departmental budgets and potentially impacts shared studio space. Which approach best aligns with responsible institutional governance and resource management at the Alberta College of Art and Design? Option A. Approve the expansion immediately to foster student creativity, as the artistic merit is paramount and departmental budget adjustments can be made later. Option B. Proceed with the expansion by reallocating funds from less visible student support services, without a formal review or consultation process. Option C. Prioritize the expansion based on the enthusiastic support of the art installation faculty, assuming the artistic value will ultimately justify any resource challenges. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment evaluating the project's alignment with a CAD strategic plan, financial implications, operational feasibility, and consultation with affected departments before committing resources. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment evaluating the project's alignment with a CAD strategic plan, financial implications, operational feasibility, and consultation with affected departments before committing resources. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for creative expression and student engagement with the long-term implications of resource allocation and institutional sustainability. The Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, operates under specific provincial legislation and internal policies that govern its operations, including the management of its physical and financial resources. A governance review, as indicated, implies an examination of how the institution is managed and whether it adheres to its own established principles and external mandates. The challenge lies in making a decision that is both artistically justifiable and fiscally responsible, while also being transparent and accountable to stakeholders. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that considers multiple facets of the proposed project. This approach aligns with principles of good governance and responsible resource management, which are implicitly expected of an institution like ACAD. Such an assessment would typically involve evaluating the project's alignment with ACAD's strategic plan, its potential impact on student learning and experience, the financial implications, both immediate costs and potential long-term benefits or liabilities, and the feasibility of its execution within existing infrastructure and staffing. Furthermore, it would necessitate consultation with relevant academic and administrative departments to ensure buy-in and identify potential synergies or conflicts. This methodical process ensures that decisions are informed, evidence-based, and serve the best interests of the institution and its community, reflecting a commitment to accountability and sustainability as expected under provincial educational governance frameworks. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with the project solely based on the enthusiasm of a single department or faculty member, without a broader assessment. This fails to acknowledge the interconnectedness of institutional resources and the need for equitable distribution and strategic planning. It could lead to the misallocation of funds that could be better utilized elsewhere, or create unforeseen operational challenges for other departments. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize the project based on its perceived artistic merit alone, disregarding its financial viability or long-term sustainability. This overlooks the fiduciary responsibilities inherent in managing public or donor funds and could jeopardize the institution's ability to fulfill its core mission. Finally, an approach that bypasses established governance procedures or fails to consult relevant stakeholders demonstrates a disregard for transparency and collaborative decision-making, which are fundamental to effective institutional management and can lead to internal conflict and erosion of trust. Professionals in such situations should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with clearly defining the problem or opportunity. This is followed by gathering relevant information, including potential impacts, costs, benefits, and risks. Next, stakeholders should be identified and consulted. Alternative solutions or approaches should be explored and evaluated against established criteria, which should include alignment with institutional goals, financial feasibility, and ethical considerations. The chosen approach should then be implemented with a plan for monitoring and evaluation. This systematic process ensures that decisions are not only sound, but also defensible and contribute to the overall health and effectiveness of the organization. Question 13. When evaluating an applicant's portfolio for admission to the Alberta College of Art and Design, and concerns arise regarding the originality of certain submitted works, what is the most appropriate impact assessment approach to ensure fairness and uphold academic integrity? Option A. Immediately reject the applicant's submission based on the initial suspicion of originality issues to avoid any potential compromise of academic standards. Option B. Seek informal opinions from other art institutions or professionals outside of a CAD official admissions process to gauge the severity of the originality concerns. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's portfolio, seeking clarification directly from the applicant regarding the creative process and sources of inspiration for the questioned works, while consulting ACAD academic integrity policies to guide the subsequent steps. Option D. Admit the applicant without further inquiry, assuming the portfolio represents their best effort and that any perceived originality issues are minor creative interpretations. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's portfolio, seeking clarification directly from the applicant regarding the creative process and sources of inspiration for the questioned works, while consulting academic integrity policies to guide the subsequent steps. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the applicant's portfolio, while demonstrating technical skill, raises concerns about originality and potential academic misconduct. The admissions committee must balance the desire to admit talented students with the responsibility to uphold academic integrity and ensure a fair evaluation process for all applicants. A thorough impact assessment is crucial to understand the potential consequences of different decisions on the applicant, the institution, and the broader academic community. The correct approach involves a nuanced investigation that respects the applicant's right to a fair hearing while adhering to the Alberta College of Art and Design's (ACAD) academic integrity policies. This approach prioritizes gathering sufficient evidence to make an informed decision rather than making a hasty judgment. It aligns with principles of natural justice and due process, ensuring that any decision is based on facts and established policies. Specifically, ACAD academic integrity guidelines would mandate a process for addressing suspected plagiarism or misrepresentation, which typically involves direct communication with the applicant and a review of the evidence by an appropriate committee. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the applicant based on initial suspicion without further investigation. This fails to provide the applicant with an opportunity to explain their work or address the concerns, violating principles of fairness. It also risks overlooking valid explanations or mitigating circumstances. Another incorrect approach would be to admit the applicant without addressing the concerns, which undermines academic integrity and sets a precedent that could encourage similar behavior from other students. This neglects the institution's responsibility to maintain high academic standards and could lead to a compromised learning environment. A third incorrect approach would be to consult external sources or individuals not authorized by ACAD policies for guidance on academic integrity matters, as this could breach confidentiality and introduce bias into the decision-making process. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying potential issues, then gathering relevant information and policies, consulting with appropriate internal stakeholders, e.g., academic integrity officers, evaluating the evidence against established criteria, and finally, making a decision that is fair, consistent, and defensible according to institutional guidelines. This process emphasizes due diligence and adherence to established procedures. Question 14. Strategic planning requires a thorough evaluation of potential new program directions at the Alberta College of Art and Design. Which of the following approaches best ensures that these decisions are both artistically innovative and institutionally sustainable within the Alberta post-secondary education framework? Option A. Conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that considers artistic merit, student demand, resource allocation, and alignment with provincial educational mandates. Option B. Prioritizing the adoption of the most cutting-edge artistic trends identified by a small group of faculty, regardless of student interest or resource implications. Option C. Relying on informal discussions with industry professionals to gauge the viability of new artistic directions without formal data collection. Option D. Focusing exclusively on cost reduction measures for existing programs to free up funds for potential new artistic initiatives. The correct answer is A. Conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that considers artistic merit, student demand, resource allocation, and alignment with provincial educational mandates. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, entrance exam, while focused on artistic aptitude, operates within a broader educational and institutional framework. Decisions made during strategic planning, even those seemingly internal to artistic curriculum development, can have implications for student recruitment, program viability, and adherence to provincial educational standards. The challenge lies in balancing artistic innovation with the practical realities of institutional operation and regulatory compliance. Careful judgment is required to ensure that strategic decisions are not only artistically sound, but also legally and ethically defensible within the Alberta post-secondary education context. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that considers the potential effects of proposed changes on various stakeholders and institutional functions. This includes evaluating how new artistic program directions might affect student demand, faculty resources, existing infrastructure, and importantly, alignment with the Alberta government's educational mandates and a CAD-owned charter. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible, as it demonstrates due diligence, foresight, and a commitment to sustainable and compliant institutional growth. It aligns with the principles of good governance expected of public post-secondary institutions in Alberta, which are accountable for efficient resource allocation and effective program delivery. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate artistic trends without considering broader implications would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a lack of foresight and an incomplete understanding of the institution's operational context. Such an approach risks creating programs that are unsustainable, misaligned with student interests, or even in conflict with provincial educational policies, leading to potential resource misallocation and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes cost-cutting above all else, without a thorough assessment of artistic and educational impact, is also professionally unsound. This can lead to the erosion of program quality, a decline in student experience, and ultimately, a failure to meet a CAD mandate as a leading art and design institution. This approach neglects the ethical obligation to provide high-quality education and the regulatory expectation that institutions maintain academic standards. Finally, an approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or the opinions of a small, unrepresentative group without systematic data collection or analysis is professionally weak. This can lead to decisions based on incomplete or biased information, resulting in strategic missteps that are difficult to rectify and can undermine the credibility of the planning process. It fails to meet the professional standard of evidence-based decision-making. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Define the strategic objective clearly. 2. Identify all relevant stakeholders and potential impacts. 3. Gather comprehensive data including market research, student feedback, faculty input, and an analysis of the current regulatory environment in Alberta. 4. Conduct a thorough impact assessment, considering financial, operational, artistic, and regulatory dimensions. 5. Develop alternative strategies and evaluate their respective pros and cons based on the impact assessment. 6. Select the strategy that best balances artistic vision with institutional sustainability, regulatory compliance, and stakeholder interests. 7. Implement the chosen strategy with ongoing monitoring and evaluation. Question 15. Analysis of an applicant's approach to acknowledging inspiration and potential collaboration in their CAD entrance portfolio, considering the ethical implications of their creative process. An applicant has heavily relied on an online tutorial for foundational techniques and received significant input from a friend on the conceptual development of their artwork. How should the applicant best navigate these influences to ensure their submission adheres to academic integrity standards? Option A. Include a brief, vague statement about general inspiration without specifying the tutorial or the friend's contribution. Option B. Focus solely on the final visual outcome and argue that the creative process, including external influences, is irrelevant to the portfolio assessment. Option C. Submit the portfolio without any mention of the online tutorial or the friend's involvement, assuming their own execution makes the work original. Option D. Proactively seek guidance from a CAD admissions or faculty on how to appropriately credit the online tutorial and acknowledge the friend's conceptual input. The correct answer is D. Proactively seek guidance from a CAD admissions or faculty on how to appropriately credit the online tutorial and acknowledge the friend's conceptual input. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge for an applicant to the Alberta College of Art and Design, a CAD, by requiring them to consider the ethical implications of their artistic choices within the context of academic integrity. The core challenge lies in balancing creative expression with the responsibility to acknowledge sources and avoid misrepresentation, which are fundamental principles in any educational institution, including a CAD. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the applicant's portfolio submission is both original and ethically sound, reflecting a mature understanding of artistic practice. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves the applicant proactively seeking guidance from ACAD admissions or faculty regarding the appropriate methods for crediting inspiration and acknowledging influences. This demonstrates a commitment to academic integrity and a willingness to adhere to ACAD ethical standards. By engaging in open communication and seeking clarification, the applicant shows respect for the institution's policies and a desire to submit work that is both artistically compelling and ethically transparent. This aligns with the implicit expectation of honesty and originality in all academic submissions, a cornerstone of ethical conduct in higher education. Incorrect approaches analysis. Submitting the work without any acknowledgement of the source of inspiration or the collaborative elements would be an ethical failure. This approach misrepresents the applicant's sole authorship and originality, potentially violating principles of academic honesty. It fails to demonstrate an understanding of the importance of attribution, which is crucial for building a foundation of trust and integrity in an academic environment. Claiming the work as entirely original without any mention of the significant inspiration or collaborative input is also an ethical failure. This is a form of misrepresentation, as it suggests a level of independent creation that is not fully accurate. It undermines the value of acknowledging the contributions of others, whether through direct inspiration or collaborative effort, and fails to foster a culture of intellectual honesty. Seeking to obscure or downplay the influence of the online tutorial and the friend's input, even if not directly copying, is an ethical failure. This approach suggests an intent to mislead the admissions committee about the true genesis of the artwork. It prioritizes perceived originality over transparency and fails to acknowledge the learning process and the contributions of others to the development of their skills and ideas. Professional reasoning. Professionals in creative fields, like those aspiring to study at ACAD, must develop a strong ethical compass. The decision-making process for situations involving inspiration and attribution should involve 1. Identifying potential ethical considerations, recognizing when inspiration might blur the lines of originality. 2. Consulting relevant guidelines, understanding ACAD policies on academic integrity and portfolio submissions. 3. Seeking clarification, proactively asking admissions or faculty for guidance when unsure. 4. Practicing transparency, ensuring all influences and contributions are appropriately acknowledged. 5. Reflecting on intent, considering whether the approach is honest and respectful of the creative process and the work of others. Question 16. Compliance review shows that the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, Entrance Exam Committee is proposing significant changes to the portfolio submission requirements, aiming to emphasize digital art skills. What is the most appropriate next step for the committee to ensure the proposed changes are implemented ethically and effectively? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment to evaluate how the proposed changes might affect diverse applicant pools, including accessibility, potential biases, and alignment with ACAD's overall educational mission, before finalizing any revisions. Option B. Immediately implement the new digital art portfolio requirements to keep the entrance exam current with evolving artistic trends and to streamline the application process. Option C. Seek external validation from a few prominent digital artists to confirm the relevance of the proposed portfolio requirements, without formally assessing broader impacts on applicants. Option D. Proceed with the proposed changes based on the committee's collective artistic judgment, assuming that a focus on digital art will naturally attract the most qualified candidates. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment to evaluate how the proposed changes might affect diverse applicant pools, including accessibility, potential biases, and alignment with ACAD's overall educational mission, before finalizing any revisions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD entrance exam, while focused on artistic aptitude, operates within a broader educational and institutional framework. Admissions processes, even for creative programs, are subject to principles of fairness, transparency, and adherence to institutional policies. The challenge lies in balancing the subjective nature of art assessment with the objective requirements of a fair and equitable admissions process. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the assessment methods are not only effective in identifying artistic talent, but also comply with ACAD's stated admission guidelines and any relevant provincial educational regulations that govern post-secondary institutions in Alberta. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that considers how the proposed changes to the entrance exam might affect various applicant groups. This includes evaluating potential biases, accessibility issues, and the overall alignment with the CAD mission and educational objectives. Such an assessment is crucial for ensuring that the exam remains a valid and reliable measure of artistic potential, while upholding principles of equity and fairness, which are implicitly expected of any public educational institution in Alberta. This aligns with the ethical responsibility to provide a transparent and non-discriminatory admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to implement changes without a thorough impact assessment. This could lead to unintended consequences, such as inadvertently disadvantaging certain demographic groups or failing to accurately assess the intended artistic skills. For example, focusing solely on a new digital portfolio requirement without considering applicants who may have limited access to technology or digital art training would be an ethical failure. Similarly, altering the assessment criteria without consulting relevant faculty or reviewing existing institutional policies on admissions could lead to a misalignment with a CAD educational philosophy and potentially violate internal governance procedures. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed of implementation over thoroughness, leading to a rushed and potentially flawed assessment process that could undermine the credibility of the entrance exam. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the stated goals of the entrance exam and a CAD mission. This should be followed by identifying all potential stakeholders and their interests. A thorough impact assessment, considering both positive and negative consequences across different applicant groups, is essential. This assessment should be informed by consultation with faculty, admissions staff, and potentially student representatives. Finally, decisions should be made based on evidence gathered during the assessment, ensuring alignment with the CAD policies and ethical principles of fairness and equity. Question 17. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood and high impact for unforeseen material costs, and a low likelihood and moderate impact for public perception of subject matter. Which approach best demonstrates a proactive and responsible understanding of these potential challenges for your proposed art installation? Option A. Develop a detailed contingency budget for unexpected material expenses and outline a strategy for engaging with community groups to explain the artistic intent and potential interpretations of the subject matter. Option B. Acknowledge the high impact of unforeseen material costs, but decide not to develop specific mitigation plans, as budgets are often fluid. Option C. Prioritize addressing the public perception of subject matter by downplaying its artistic significance to avoid controversy, while only making a minor note about potential cost overruns. Option D. Focus solely on the unforeseen material costs, as it has a high impact, and assume public perception will be manageable. The correct answer is A. Develop a detailed contingency budget for unexpected material expenses and outline a strategy for engaging with community groups to explain the artistic intent and potential interpretations of the subject matter. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to interpret a visual representation of potential risks associated with their proposed artistic project and to articulate a strategy for mitigating those risks. The challenge lies in moving beyond a superficial understanding of the risk matrix to a thoughtful consideration of how identified risks might impact the project's feasibility, ethical implications, and alignment with the Alberta College of Art and Design's (ACAD) values, without resorting to purely quantitative analysis. Careful judgment is required to select the most comprehensive and proactive approach to risk management. The correct approach involves a detailed, multifaceted strategy that not only acknowledges the identified risks, but also proposes specific, actionable steps for mitigation and contingency planning. This aligns with professional best practices in project management and artistic integrity, emphasizing foresight and responsibility. While ACAD may not have explicit regulations governing risk matrices for entrance exams, the underlying principles of responsible artistic practice, ethical consideration of impact, and clear communication of intent are implicitly expected. A robust risk assessment demonstrates maturity and a commitment to thoughtful execution, which are desirable qualities for any aspiring art and design student. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the highest probability risks, without considering their potential impact or proposing mitigation strategies, fails to demonstrate a comprehensive understanding of risk management, suggests a reactive rather than proactive stance, which is professionally unsound. Another incorrect approach that dismisses certain risks as minor without justification overlooks potential unforeseen consequences and a thorough assessment. This can lead to project derailment or unintended negative outcomes. An approach that prioritizes only the most visually striking or dramatic risks, while ignoring less obvious but potentially significant ones, indicates a lack of balanced judgment and a superficial engagement with the assessment. This can lead to a skewed perception of the project's challenges. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that involves 1. Thoroughly understanding the context and purpose of the risk assessment. 2. Identifying all potential risks and their likelihood and impact. 3. Developing specific, actionable mitigation and contingency plans for each significant risk. 4. Prioritizing actions based on the severity of the risk. And 5. Clearly communicating the assessment and proposed strategies. This systematic approach ensures that potential challenges are addressed proactively and responsibly. Question 18. Research into the ethical considerations of artistic influence and originality for an Alberta College of Art and Design entrance portfolio. A student is developing a series of digital illustrations. They are deeply inspired by the stylistic elements of a contemporary graphic novelist, but are concerned about how to present their work ethically. Which approach best demonstrates an understanding of academic integrity and artistic originality for their ACAD entrance application? Option A. Submitting illustrations that closely replicate the graphic novelist's character designs and panel layouts, with a brief mention of the artist as an inspiration. Option B. Presenting a collection of illustrations that are direct copies of the graphic novelist's most popular works, claiming them as personal studies. Option C. Submitting illustrations that are entirely derivative of the graphic novelist's style, without any mention of the original artist or any attempt at personal interpretation. Option D. Creating illustrations that reinterpret the graphic novelist's core themes and visual motifs through a distinctly personal stylistic lens, while acknowledging the influence in their artist's statement. The correct answer is D. Creating illustrations that reinterpret the graphic novelist's core themes and visual motifs through a distinctly personal stylistic lens, while acknowledging the influence in their artist's statement. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge for an aspiring Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, student by requiring them to navigate the ethical considerations of artistic integrity and academic honesty within the context of an entrance exam. The core difficulty lies in distinguishing between legitimate inspiration and academic misconduct, particularly when dealing with source material that is not their own original creation. Careful judgment is required to ensure their submission reflects their own artistic voice and understanding, rather than a mere replication or appropriation of another's work, which could be seen as a form of plagiarism or misrepresentation. The correct approach involves demonstrating an understanding of how to ethically engage with existing art and design. This means acknowledging influences, reinterpreting concepts, and developing a unique artistic response that clearly stems from their own creative process. This approach aligns with the principles of academic integrity expected by ACAD, which values originality and the development of individual artistic skills. By focusing on personal interpretation and transformation of source material, the student showcases their ability to think critically and creatively, essential qualities for success in art and design education. This demonstrates respect for intellectual property and a commitment to authentic artistic expression, which are foundational ethical expectations in any creative field. An incorrect approach that involves directly copying or closely mimicking existing artwork without significant transformation or attribution would be ethically and academically unacceptable. This failure to create original work or to properly acknowledge sources if inspiration is drawn constitutes a breach of academic honesty. It misrepresents the student's own abilities and understanding, potentially leading to a rejection of their application based on a lack of originality. Another incorrect approach, such as submitting work that is clearly not their own, perhaps created by a peer or a professional artist, is a more severe form of misrepresentation and academic dishonesty. This directly violates the expectation that the submitted work is a true reflection of the applicant's own skills and creative process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a clear understanding of the institution's academic integrity policies and a commitment to ethical artistic practice. Aspiring students should ask themselves, does this work genuinely represent my own ideas and execution? And have I transformed the source material in a meaningful way that reflects my unique perspective? When in doubt, it is always best to err on the side of caution, seeking clarification from the institution or focusing on developing a concept that is more distinctly their own. The goal is to present an authentic portfolio that showcases their potential and their commitment to ethical creative development. Question 19. The monitoring system demonstrates a high probability of plagiarism in a submitted portfolio for the Alberta College of Art and Design entrance exam. Which of the following actions best upholds the principles of academic integrity and fairness to the applicant? Option A. Immediately disqualify the applicant from the entrance exam process due to the detected plagiarism. Option B. Contact the applicant's previous educational institutions to verify the originality of their past work before addressing the current submission. Option C. Overlook the plagiarism flags as potential system errors and proceed with the applicant's evaluation without further investigation. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of the flagged work, compare it against original sources, and then formally notify the applicant of the concerns, providing an opportunity for them to respond and offer clarification before a final decision is made. The correct answer is A. Immediately disqualify the applicant from the entrance exam process due to the detected plagiarism. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge in maintaining academic integrity and ensuring a fair assessment process for prospective students applying to the Alberta College of Art and Design. A CAD, the monitoring system's demonstration of potential plagiarism, requires a nuanced response that balances the need to uphold CAD standards with the principle of providing applicants with a fair opportunity to present their work. The challenge lies in identifying and addressing academic misconduct without unfairly penalizing genuine artistic expression or overlooking potential misunderstandings of academic honesty policies. The correct approach involves a thorough, multi-stage investigation that prioritizes due process for the applicant. This begins with a preliminary review to confirm the extent and nature of the suspected plagiarism. If the initial review indicates a strong possibility of misconduct, the applicant should be formally notified and given an opportunity to respond to the allegations, providing context or explanation for their work. This aligns with principles of fairness and natural justice, ensuring that decisions are made based on a complete understanding of the situation. CAD academic integrity policies, which would be part of the entrance exam guidelines, would mandate such a process to ensure all applicants are treated equitably and that disciplinary actions are taken only after a comprehensive and impartial review. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the applicant based solely on the initial flags from the monitoring system. This fails to acknowledge the possibility of false positives or extenuating circumstances and violates the principle of due process. It also bypasses the opportunity for the applicant to explain their creative process or potential unintentional similarities, which could be crucial in determining intent. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the flags altogether, which would undermine CAD commitment to academic honesty and could lead to the admission of students who have not met the required standards of originality. This would also be a failure to adhere to the established entrance examination protocols designed to ensure a fair and rigorous selection process. Professionals in admissions and academic integrity roles should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding and applying the specific policies and guidelines of CAD entrance examination. This involves a commitment to fairness, transparency, and thorough investigation. When potential academic misconduct is identified, the process should involve 1. Objective assessment of the evidence, 2. Clear communication with the applicant regarding the concerns, 3. Providing the applicant with a reasonable opportunity to respond and present their case, and 4. Making a final decision based on all available information and in accordance with established policies. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are defensible, ethical, and uphold the integrity of the institution. Question 20. Comparative studies suggest that the evaluation of artistic submissions for higher education entrance can be complex, particularly when applicants employ techniques or concepts that echo existing artistic movements or styles. Considering the Alberta College of Art and Design, CAD, entrance exams focus on assessing individual creative potential and foundational artistic skills. How should an admissions committee approach a submission that, while technically proficient and conceptually intriguing, bears a striking resemblance to a well-known contemporary artist's signature style, with the applicant providing no explicit acknowledgement of influence? Option A. Immediately reject the submission due to the high probability of plagiarism or undue influence, prioritizing the avoidance of any potential academic integrity issues. Option B. Accept the submission without further scrutiny, viewing the resemblance as a sign of the applicant's sophisticated understanding and ability to emulate successful artistic trends. Option C. Conduct a thorough review to determine the extent of originality and transformative contribution, potentially seeking further information from the applicant, and evaluate the submission based on ACAD-established criteria for artistic merit and academic integrity. Option D. Focus solely on the conceptual intrigue and technical proficiency of the submission, overlooking the stylistic resemblance as a minor detail in the context of a creative entrance exam. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough review to determine the extent of originality and transformative contribution, potentially seeking further information from the applicant, and evaluate the submission based on ACAD-established criteria for artistic merit and academic integrity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in navigating the ethical considerations of academic integrity and artistic expression within the context of an art college entrance exam. The applicant's submission, while potentially innovative, raises questions about originality and adherence to the spirit of an entrance assessment designed to evaluate individual skill and conceptual development. Careful judgment is required to balance the desire to encourage creative risk-taking with the need to maintain fair and equitable evaluation standards for all applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective review of the applicant's submission against the stated criteria of the Alberta College of Art and Design, ACAD, entrance exam guidelines. This includes assessing the applicant's stated intent, the execution of the work, and whether the submitted piece genuinely reflects their own artistic voice and capabilities as intended by the exam. If the submission appears to rely heavily on external sources or pre-existing elements without significant transformative contribution, the evaluators must consider the implications for academic honesty as outlined in ACAD academic integrity policies. The ethical justification lies in upholding the principles of fairness, transparency, and the accurate assessment of an applicant's potential, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on a level playing field. An incorrect approach would be to immediately disqualify the applicant based on a superficial resemblance to existing works without further investigation. This fails to acknowledge the nuances of artistic influence and inspiration, which are fundamental to artistic development. It also bypasses the established process for addressing potential academic misconduct, which typically involves a review and opportunity for the applicant to provide context or explanation. Another incorrect approach would be to accept the submission without question, despite concerns about originality, simply to avoid potential controversy or to appear progressive. This undermines the integrity of the evaluation process and could lead to admitting students who may not possess the foundational skills or understanding of artistic originality that the entrance exam aims to ascertain. A third incorrect approach would be to focus solely on the perceived shock value or novelty of the submission, disregarding whether it aligns with the core competencies and artistic vision that ACAD seeks in its students. This prioritizes superficial impact over genuine artistic merit and potential. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured, multi-stage review. First, clearly understand the specific requirements and evaluation criteria of the ACAD entrance exam. Second, objectively assess the submitted work against these criteria, considering originality, technical execution, conceptual development, and adherence to academic integrity principles. Third, if concerns arise, follow ACAD-established procedures for addressing potential issues, which may include seeking clarification from the applicant or consulting with senior faculty or admissions committee members. The ultimate decision should be based on a comprehensive evaluation that prioritizes fairness, integrity, and the best interests of both the applicant and the institution.